Hare Krishna. Today we will discuss the Narasimha Kavacha Stotra from the Brahmanda Purana. This is a set of 30 verses that are offered by Prahlad Maharaj to Narasimha Dev, and they occur in the Brahmanda Purana. Actually, Kavacha means shield, or especially not a shield that is very close to the body. Sometimes when a person is fighting with a sword, there may be a shield which is held in the hand. But Kavacha refers to that shield which is very close to the body. Armor, we can say more precisely. And armor also acts as a shield. So now, people think of an armor as primarily referring to something which is physical and which protects from physical wounds. Now that is because today the conception of reality is largely reduced to the physical. In fact, there is spiritual reality, there is mental reality, or the spiritual level of reality, there is mental level of reality, and there is physical level of reality. So even material consciousness is considered undesirable, but material includes physical and mental. In today's society, largely the consciousness is not just material but physical. And so that's why people think in terms of physical dangers and physical armors to protect themselves from those physical dangers. But the Vedic wisdom tradition understands that actually there can be danger at many levels. Beyond the physical world that we see, there are dangers which can come at a subtle level. Now we do know that there are troubles at the level of the mind. In fact, mental disease is a serious problem, but troubles at the subtle level can also include troubles from ghosts and other such entities. So the Kavacha does not have to be gross for offering protection, gross or physical for offering protection. So chanting prayers, chanting mantras invokes the protection of the Lord by subtle spiritual means. So that means that just as some of the mantras, which are some of the weapons that are used, often the weapons are discharged using arrows. But when Arjuna appeases Lord Shiva and gets from him the Pashupatastra, it is described that this Pashupatastra can be chanted and discharged even using the mind. So normally an arrow is used to discharge it, but it can be discharged directly also from the mind. So the physical medium may sometimes be used, but it's not necessary for the astras. And similarly, for the kavachas also, a physical medium may not be always necessary. So there is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 6th canto, the Narayana Kavacha. So Indra got that kavacha and used it to fight against the asuras, especially Vritrasura. So like that there can be various kavachas. So here there is Narasimha Kavacha. So we'll recite these verses one by one, and we will discuss their meaning briefly. So Shri Narasimha Kavacha Stotram. Narasimha Kavacham Vakshe Prahladenooditam Parapura Sarvarakshakaram Punyam Sarvopadravanashanam. So this is in the Brahmanda Purana, and the narrative is going on now. So Narasimha Kavacham Vakshe. So Vakshami, Krishna is in the Bhagavad Gita. I speak it, Vakshe. So now it is being recited. Prahladenooditam Pura. Pura, in the past, this was spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. And then, what is described further? Sarvarakshakaram Punyam. So two primary benefits are described, and these will be elaborated in various ways in subsequent verses. Sarvarakshakaram Punyam. So all kinds of dangers one is protected from them. Sarvopadravanashanam. So basically we have many kinds of dangers in this world. But whatever dangers are there, one is protected from them. And then Sarva Rakshakaram. So 3 points are described here. So, Rakshakaram, all kinds of protection is offered. And Punyam, it's pious. And Sarva Upadravanashanam, impediment. So when we are marching on a path, sometimes something may come and attack us. So that is we need protection from that. And then sometimes something may come as an obstacle in the path, which impedes our progress. So that something may just attack to destroy us, something may not attack to destroy us, but it may just obstruct us. So there is upadrav. So upadravanashanam. So when Hanumanji was going across Lanka, so the Mainak Parvat came, and the Mainak Parvat obstructed his way. The Mainak Parvat had no intention to destroy him, but still it was a upadrava. Then there was later the Simhika Rakshasi. She actually wanted to destroy by eating. So there can be different kinds of dangers, and this Narasimha Kavach protects from that. Then second verse, Sarva Sampatkaram Chaiva Swarga Moksha Pradayakam Dhyatva Narasimha Devesham Hema Simhasanasthitam. So normally the prayers are offered in a way that they can appeal to everyone. So the pure devotees, or those who are aspiring for pure devotion, see the prayers in a way that enhances their pure aspirations. Those who are not so pure and those whose consciousness is at the material level, the prayers often contain promises and benefits for them also. So here it is said, Sarva Sampatkaram Chaiva Sarva Sampatkaram. So here in the Sampatti, one will get all kinds of wealth by chanting these prayers. And then Swarga Moksha Pradayakam. So if somebody wants wealth in this world, one can get that. Somebody wants wealth in the next world, in terms of attainment of Swarga, one can get that also. And then if somebody wants to go beyond this and get liberated, Moksha Pradayakam. So it can provide these things. And how does one go about chanting these prayers and invoking the Narasimha Kavacha? So that's described now. So actually we will see that there is a brief, very brief glorification of the stotra that is coming before, and there will be a longer glorification that will come at the end, which will be the Falashruti. So we see that Krishna also uses this strategy. Sometimes right at the start of the chapter, he will describe how rare this knowledge is. For example, 7 chapter in describing knowledge, first he says, once knowing this, there is nothing more to be known. And those who know it, only one in thousands and millions knows it. Or 14th chapter also he says that. Most confidential knowledge. 10th chapter also he says that. And then at the end also he gives Falashruti, where in 18.68 onwards till 18.71 he describes in various ways the benefit for those who share this message, those who study this message, and those who hear this message. So we'll see this sort of glorification in the beginning as well as at the end. So Dhyatva, so to recite this mantra and to invoke the Kavacha, Dhyatva, meditate. Narasimha Devesham. This Lord Narasimha Dev is the Lord of all the gods, Devesham. What none of the Devatas could do, overpowering and destroying and delivering Narasimha Dev, he did that. And all the Devatas in the 8th chapter of the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, various Devatas offering prayers to Narasimha Dev are depicted. So he's Devesham. And then how is he situated? Hema Simhasanasthitam. Now this is Prahlad Maharaj. These are not the prayers Prahlad Maharaj chanted when Lord Narasimha Dev. So we have the 7th canto 9th chapter prayers, which chanted immediately after the Lord delivered Hiranyakashipu. So to pacify him, these are different prayers. So in this, the vision is, we will see what the vision is. The Lord is situated in the golden throne. Hema Simhasanasthitam. So the devotee wants to glorify the Lord. The devotee envisions the Lord in full opulence. And now envision doesn't mean the imagination. Envision can also be the result of a revelation. So the Lord reveals himself. The Lord is like that. And the devotee is able to see him like that. So now, so first is where he is situated is described, where he is seated. Now the focus goes more on a close-up on him, and his form is described now. Vivruttasyam trinayanam sharadindu samaprabham lakshmya lingitava mangam vibhutibhirupashritam. So Vivruttasyam, Vivrutta Asyam. So his mouth is wide open, and that can indicate anger that can indicate pleasure. It can indicate various emotions. Now we know that a lion, when the lion is roaring, its mouth is open. When the lion is about to attack and devour, so it devours through its mouth, the mouth is open. So Vivruttasyam Trinayanam. He has three eyes. Now normally Trinayana refers to Lord Shiva. He has two normal eyes and one third eye which he opens when he gets extremely angry. Now Lord Shiva describes in his prayers to Narasimhadev that the anger which he manifests at the time of the destruction of the universe is a fraction of the anger potency of the Supreme Lord. Or that is Lord Narasimhadev especially. So Srila Prabhupada said that if you feel very angry, then meditate on Lord Narasimhadev, meditate on his anger. So that way we can connect our anger with Krishna, and by remembering how, we want to, whenever we get angry, we get a sort of sense of power. Yeah, by my anger I can beat, I can punch, I can shout. But if we remember, if we use that our anger to remember Krishna, Narasimhadev's anger, then we can see what is his power. That his power was such that just with his bare nails, he ripped open that demon Hiranyakashipu, whose body could not even be scratched by the thunderbolt of Indra, which had power to just by one crash reduce giant mountains to powder. So that was the power of Lord Narasimhadev, and he was so angry he could do such things. So his anger could lead to such power. So what is my anger in front of it? There's no need for me to get so worked up by anger. Instead of trying to exhibit my power through my anger, let me meditate on the Lord and seek his power to control my anger and his power to deal with the problem. So Trinayanam. So the Lord is the original manifestation of the anger, and he is having three eyes over here. Sharadindu Samaprabham. So Sharadindu, Indu is moon. In the autumn, the moon is considered very attractive. Krishna also performs his Ras Leela, so at that time Sharadindu. Samaprabham means is effulgent, like a moon. So here in this particular pose, Lord Narasimhadev is manifesting beauty. Of course, he's beautiful even when he's angry. He is the ferociously beautiful Lord. But in this case, he's manifesting a very soothing, beautiful form. So normally, when someone is angry, their face is compared to the sun, blazing sun. So when the Vishwarupa is revealed by Krishna, so that is compared to a sun. So here, but when Nityananda Prabhu is very merciful, his face is compared to a Koti Chandra Sushitala, is compared to a moon. So here, Lord Narasimhadev is very soothing, graceful mood. It's more like he's effulgent like a moon. Lakshmya Lingita Vamangam. And next to him is Lakshmi Devi, Vamangam, on the left side of him. Lakshmya Alingit. So he is holding on to Lakshmi Devi. In many South Indian temples, this pose is there. Lord Narasimhadev is there and Lakshmi Devi is held by him. So that indicates that actually the goddess of fortune, who is the source of all fortune, is held by him, is in his control, and she's happily in his control. So that indicates that he is the reservoir and the source of all good fortune. Vibhuti Virupashritam. And in case that is not clear, that's made even more clear, that actually all vibhutis, all opulences rest in him. So whatever opulence, material or spiritual, it may be. So we have this. Opulence can simply mean wealth. Opulence can mean the six opulences, and opulence can mean love. So all of these are present in him. He is the ashray of everything that is attractive. Of every opulence, he is the ashray. He is the shelter. So then, now this particular form of Narasimhadev is Chaturbhujam. So that's mentioned now. Chaturbhujam Komalangam Swarna Kundala Shobhitam Saroja Shobhito Raskam Ratna Keyura Mudritam. So Chaturbhujam, four arms, Komalangam. And normally, Lord Narasimhadev, we would think a lion, we would not glorify the lion as very soft bodied. But we know Sridhar Swami prays how the Lord is, he is like a ferocious lion for an invader or a predator, for anybody hostile, and that same lioness is very sweet and gentle for her own cub. So here the devotee is invoking the presence of the Lord, and the devotee sees the Lord's body not as thunderously powerful, which can rip apart another body merely by nails. He sees, oh, this is Komalangam. So the Lord reciprocates with the devotee's desires and manifests himself accordingly. So the devotee sees the Lord as beautiful, tender, the reservoir of love, Komalangam, and his gentle, soft body. And we see this mood. The devotees understand the Lord's features according to what will enhance their rasa the most. The gopis, when they are praying to Krishna, they say at one level that, oh Krishna, your feet, Fanifanarpitam te padambujam, your feet, you offer them to Kaliya, and they crushed him by pounding his hoods. But then the same gopis are praying, Krishna, Trunachara, they are praying that actually when Shila Trunankurai Sidati Tina Kalilatam Mana Kanta Gachati, says that they are so tender that actually when pebbles, thorns, twigs pierce those feet, we feel that they are piercing our heart and ripping our heart apart. We can't tolerate it. This is the mood of a devotee. Devotee knows the power of the Lord, but the devotee focuses on those features of the Lord and the love. So Lord Narasimhadev is no doubt powerful, but Komalangam. And then here it's Swarna Kundala Shobhitam. So Lord, the purpose and perfection of all beautiful ornaments and all beautiful things is to be used in the service of the Lord. So He does not need any ornaments, but the purpose and their perfection is to be used to serve Him. Now Uddhava says in the Bhagavatam that Bhushanam Bhushitaha. Actually you become the ornament of the ornaments. It is you who beautify the ornaments. The ornaments don't beautify you. So here the Lord is not beautified. The ornaments are beautified and perfected by their contact with the Lord. So here he is wearing earrings. Swarna Kundala Shobhitam is, so Swarna Kundala, golden earrings are there. Saroj Shobhito Raskam. Now his chest is considered to be expansive and beautiful like a lotus. Now normally the chest is considered to be like, people beat their chest, so it's considered heavy and solid. So why would it be considered compared to a lotus? Now we know that Lakshmi Devi takes shelter at the chest of the Lord. She is there as a Shrivatsa, as the hair. And the idea is the chest is also where the Lord offers shelter. And just as a lotus is soothing, lotus is cooling, so similarly the Lord's chest is also soothing, cooling, comforting. And then further describe Ratnakeyur Mudritam. Ratnakeyur. So his arms, he's got also arm decorations, armlets we can say. That they are ornaments which are studded with ratnas, jewels. So the Lord is in this way majestically and artistically decorated. Tapta Kanchana Sankasham Pita Nirmala Vasasam Indradi Suramaulishtaha Spuranmanikya Diptibhi. So Tapta Kanchana, normally we use this to refer to Srimati Radharani. Her complexion is like molten gold. So here is described the Lord, his Vasasam, his dress is Pita Nirmala. It's spotlessly yellow. And how is it like? Like molten gold. So Narasimhadev is adorned in a Pitambara, which is Tapta Kanchana Sankasham. It's like that. So it's beautiful. So yellow is considered to be a very beautiful color. Gold naturally attracts our eyes, and the golden color actually it further enhances the beautiful vision of that the devotee is having of the Lord. And then this Lord, who is he? Indra the Suramaulishta. Indra is the greatest of the gods, and there are other gods. Adis Maulishta, he is their origin, he is their head. He resides above them in terms of power, in terms of position, in terms of everything, in terms of origin. So he exists in an entirely different sphere, an entirely superior, the supreme dimension. And Spuran Manikya Diptibhi, and he is decorated with Manikya. Manikya is jewels, rubies, which are Spuran, which are Diptibhi, which are effulgent, blazingly effulgent, it is said. Not just effulgent, captivating. So it's a double describer, Spuran and Diptibhi. So effulgent itself signifies a base, but when they are so extraordinarily beautiful, that a double describer is used over here. Then sixth, Virajita Padadvandvam Shankha Chakradihetibi Garutmata Cha Vinayat Stuyamanam Mudanvitam. So Virajit Padadvandvam, Virajit, Raj, it means attractive, beautiful. Padadvandvam, so he is, now as the vision is moving from the beautiful face of the Lord downwards, so it's, we are seeing Padadvandvam. So normally when a devotee so normally it is recommended that the devotee take the darshan from the feet upwards, but in some cases when one is overcome by ecstasy, one eyes may go directly to the face of the Lord, and if the intention is devotional, then that is considered pleasing to the Lord. So that's what is described over here. So the vision is going from the face downwards. So he's Shankha Chakradihetibi. So it was described he had 4 arms, so now he has the 4 normal ayud, 4 normal paraphernalia that the Lord has in his hand. Shankha Chakra Padma. So like that he has the conch, he has the mace, he has the lotus, and he has the disc chakra. And then Garutmata Cha Vinayat Stuyamanam Mudanvitam. Garutmata. So Garutmata refers to Garuda. So Vinayat. So Garuda is so powerful. He is extremely powerful. Once Indra hurled his thunderbolt at Garuda, and it had no effect on Indra, on Garuda. But Garuda, just to ensure that Indra is not disgraced, he allowed a small part of his feather to cut off. And Garuda was so powerful that he defeated even all the gods and the demons in order to get nectar. It's a long story which comes in the Mahabharata. But he's extremely powerful, but he's Vinayat, he's extremely humble. He humbly becomes the carrier of the Lord, and right now, when the Lord is seated on the throne, he doesn't have to carry him, so he is humbly offering prayers. Tuyamanam Mudanvitam. And he is joyful. His joy is not in exhibiting his own prowess or even doing powerful things, serving the Lord. He gets joy in that. But here, simply by glorifying the Lord also, he is getting overwhelmed with joy. Swarit Kamala Samvasam Kritva tu Kavacham Pathet Narsimho me Shirha Patu Lokarakshartha Sambhavaha. So now the Kavacha is beginning. So this is the vision of the Lord that is described by Prahlad Maharaj, and now he's thinking, this Lord is there not just on the throne, this Lord is there in my heart also. So actually that is how the prayers are to be done. In the Uddhav Gita, in the chapter on deity worship, so it is described that we meditate on how the Lord is present in our heart, and that same Lord is present in the deity. So Swarit Kamala Samvasam. So Swarit Kamala. So in our heart, we vision that there is a lotus. The Lord, wherever He is present, He is normally present on the lotus. So that is how He is. That's how His transcendence is honored by the devotee. So He is always transcendental, but we express honor for His transcendence by placing Him on a lotus. Just as the lotus is maybe in a dirty place, but is untouched by the dirt. Similarly, the Lord is, we depict Him in honor of His transcendental position as on a lotus. So similarly, in the heart there is a lotus. Swarit Kamala Samvasam Kritva. So meditate, the Lord is present in the heart. Seat Him on the lotus of the heart, and then Kavacham Pathet. Start reciting this Kavacha. Narsimho me Shirah Patu. So now the whole purpose of a kavacha is to seek protection. So now the protection is being beseeched. So may Shirah Patu, Lord Narasimhadev, may he protect my head. So just as there was the vision of the Lord from the head downwards, now the protection is also being invoked. Now in this prayers, actually the protection will be invoked by remembering the Lord's limbs and correspondence with our limbs. The idea is that we want to remember the Lord, and as Rupa Goswami says, Yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshayet, somehow or the other fix the mind on Krishna. So we are normally bodily conscious, and we may worry about our different bodily limbs and their protection. So here Prahlad Maharaj offers us in this Narasimha Kavach Stotra a means by which we can connect our normal bodily consciousness with Krishna consciousness, with Narasimha consciousness. So whatever limbs we think about, we worry about, we meditate on the Lord's limbs, and then we pray, Lord, may your Lord protect this. So the protection, rather than being just self-centered, please protect my hand, please protect my legs, it is in this way made Krishna-centered. So this is how the bridge from self-centeredness to God-centeredness is made. So self-centeredness means we are only thinking about ourselves, and if God at all exists and matters, it is only to the extent that He protects me. So Krishna-centeredness means Krishna is all that matters, and my existence is for His service. So we want to move from self-centeredness to Krishna-centeredness, and the way is there is this intersection. So we are concerned about ourselves and we are concerned about Krishna also. So it's like there is one circle, then another circle, we find the intersection point, and gradually through that, by being in that intersection point, we purify ourselves and then we rise towards Krishna-centeredness. So this is the mood of this prayer. We seek bodily protection by meditating on the Lord's body. So Lokarakshartha Sambhavaha, so that Lord who is always planning, so the head is the center of thinking and planning, so that Lord who is always meditating on the protection of all the worlds, that Lord, may He protect my head. Lokarakshartha Sambhavaha, let Him protect my, this is to protect the whole, all the world, let Him protect my head. And then further described, Sarvago Pistam Bhavasah Phalam me rakshatu dhvanim Narsimho me drushav patu Soma Suryagnilocanaha. So Sarvagopi, He is all pervading, but still when Prahlad Maharaj was challenged, is He everywhere? Is He there in this pillar? Stambhava. So he said, yes, He's everywhere and He's in this pillar. So He's everywhere, but in this particular pastime, the Lord manifested through a pillar. And Phalam me rakshatu dhvanim. And how was His presence manifested? It was manifested through dhvani. The Bhagavatam describes, 8th chapter, 7th canto, that this dhvani was so terrifying, so devastatingly loud, it appeared as if the coverings of the universe would crack apart. It appeared as if even the abodes of Brahma, they would also be shaken and shattered. That was the power of the sound. You know, we sometimes hear sound as being very powerful. So when something is very shout, we say it's shattering. But you know, what can shatter? What sound can shatter? Some abode which is so far away. So that Lord who can produce such dhvani, let Lord protect my dhvani. That means He protect my speech. So actually our speech is a very great power. By speech we can communicate, by speech we can share wisdom, by speech we can chant mantras, by speech we can glorify the Lord. So that Lord who can produce such dhvani, let Him protect my power of dhvani. And then Narsimho me drushav patu, let that Lord protect my eyes. And what is the characteristic of His eyes? Soma Surya Agnilocanaha. So His eyes are like Surya, that is sun, and Soma is moon, Agni is fire. So whatever are the sources of illumination, those sources of illumination are described. And just as our eyes illumine us, these objects illumine, provide illumination to the world. Krishna also talks about these three twice in the Bhagavad Gita, in 15.6 first, and then again in 15.2 12. First he says that these are not required for illumination in the spiritual world, and then he says that these give illumination in the material world, but that illumination comes from me. So here the description is that these you, just as you illumine the world through this, similarly my eyes illumine the path of my life for me. So please protect my eyes. And in this way the various bodily limbs are connected with the Supreme Lord, and in this way the meditation on the Lord is enhanced. So we'll continue discussing the Narasimha Kavacha Sutra in our next session. Thank you. Hare Krishna.